Hello everyone, I'm MVL and today we're doing a special look at Gadget's Retro Freak. Now if you don't know what this is, it's an emulation console. It does over 15 different retro systems. We're going to have an unboxing, we're going to have a detailed overview, and then I'm going to show you some HDMI recorded gameplay footage of this thing. So without further ado, let's see what's in the box. So here we have the Gadget Retro Freak. There's actually so much stuff in this, I had a lot of trouble getting it back in the box. So let's open this up and take a look inside. Here we have your product warranty. And on this side we have your power supply. Now what's interesting about this is it's a universal power supply. Here we have an American style plug and a UK style plug, and they both clip on to the power supply. It's very interesting, very useful in that sense, that you can take it wherever you want and not have any issues about power. Over here we have the controller adapter to play with your classic controllers from your original consoles, which is what I'll be using. I do recommend getting the product that comes with this. It's only about £30 extra, and this will work on your PC as well, which is really great. So I'll be using my original controllers most likely, although it does come here with its own controller, which is pretty cool. It kind of looks like a Super Nintendo controller, and yeah, it's not that bad. Pretty good. It's got all the buttons, it's got its own home button and options button. It's not so bad, not bad. If I'm too lazy to use another controller, I'll probably use that. Here you have your USB controller for your controller adapter, USB cable for your controller adapter rather. Here's your HDMI lead. They're not really loose, I've already opened it up to have a look inside, as I mentioned earlier. Here's your NES adapter. Now you will need this to play your NES games because it's a Japanese system, so it has a Famicom slot. And now let's look at the system itself. Here we go. There we go. So here is the Retro Freak itself. Here you can see the card slot, the Gameboy slot, 3 USBs on the front. Here are the cartridge slots. And on the back here is the main console. Here's the on button. We have a HDMI slot, the power input, and this is where you put your micro SD cards. And the funny thing is, if you take it out, it connects to the cartridge section by 2 USBs, and this is the entire console in itself, which is really interesting. So you can use this section by itself. So before we move on to looking at the interface and some gameplay footage, why did I get this and what systems does it emulate? Well, the reason I got this is I'm running out of space for all of my retro systems, and this is really easy, this is really convenient, and I can record gameplay footage from this at 720 HDMI, which is awesome. And unlike PC emulation, you get the true console experience out of this. It's really quick and easy to set up. So what systems can this emulate? It does the Famicom. It does the Nintendo Entertainment System. It does the Super Famicom. It does the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. It does the PC Engine. It does the TurboGrafx 16. Not to be confused, this is a Japanese system, the PC Engine, and this is a North American system, the TurboGrafx 16. It also does the PC Engine Super Graphics, whatever that is, I don't have any of those. And it does the Game Boy, it does the Game Boy Color, it does the Game Boy Advanced, it does the Master System with an adapter, I'll speak a bit about that later, it does the Sega Genesis, and finally it does the Sega Mega Drive. There is also an official adapter from Gadget called the Gear Converter, which also gives you access to the Sega Mark III, the SG-1000 and Sega Game Gear. Game Gear games on the big screen, that'd be awesome. Unfortunately, like the PC Engine Super Graphics, I don't own any cartridges for any of those systems, which is why I haven't picked it up. So, speaking on the Master System, which I do own cartridges for, you can use an adapter like this. This is a Sega Mega Drive Master System converter, or you could buy a Power-Based Mini or anything like that, but this also takes the cards. And this actually does work. It just slots on there. It kind of looks really weird, really Frankenstein, because it sits on there really strangely and not very elegantly, but it does work. Now, as I mentioned in the unboxing, an adapter it does come with is an NES adapter, because being a Japanese system, this has a Famicom slot on it. So you do need something like this. Fortunately, the UK version does come with one to play your NES games. One of the big advantages over this system is that it can play ROMs off a micro SD card. And out of all of the games I put on this, I've put 130 cartridges in this so far, and it can play every single one of them except two. And I know you're going to freak out when I say, oh, I can't play two games. Those two games I couldn't play, I found ROMs for, the same versions that I have, EU versions, and they played fine. The Mega Drive version was a different file format even, and it still played on this thing. It doesn't care where you get your ROMs from, it'll play them regardless. I intend to use this for all games that I own, but if you are so inclined, you could put whatever games you wanted on this thing. So this thing can play a ton of different systems. There are a couple of notable exceptions, the N64 and the 2600, which I really think that it could do, but you know, that's fine. Now I'm going to quickly talk about the controller. Now if you spend like £30 extra, you can get this USB controller adapter to play with your original controllers, which is really great. It does come with this Cyber Gadget controller, which I'm probably not going to use. It's not bad though. If I give you a look at this thing, it looks a bit like an SNES controller. Now they have basically the same buttons, but the Cyber Gadget controller has the options and home buttons. You can also use almost any USB controller on this thing. You can use a PlayStation 3 or PlayStation 4 controller, and the PlayStation button will act as the home button, which is neat. So now we're going to have a look at the UI and some gameplay footage of this thing recorded from my game capture device. So here's the user interface. As you can see, it's really clean, really nice to look at. Very easy to access all of your games through the right hand side here. As you can see, there are 133 games currently installed on this system. Those are the cartridges I put in so far, and they're all listed under their Japanese counterparts. NES or under Famicom and so on. So I'll have a look at the system settings here really quick. I'm not going to go through all of these because it would take a long time. I'll quickly mention the firmware update. It's really easy to do. I know previously people have stated that Cyber Gadget have a Japanese only website. This is not the case. They now have a website in English language, and you can update it really easily and really hassle-free. If your system is very old, you may take 1 or 2 updates to get it to the latest firmware, but it's really easy to do. You just write a firmware request to the micro SD card and then follow the instructions on the website, the Cyber Gadget customer support section. And the only other thing I want to talk about on the system settings is the console region. Now I often have this set to auto, where it will auto detect the region of the cartridge you put in the machine and play it as it should be. However, if you are a PAL gamer like myself, you may be more used to playing games at let's say a slower speed with the 50 to 60 Hz difference. Now you'll see this in games that aren't optimized for the PAL region. Sonic the Hedgehog is the best example for this. Now if I show you this game with the USA region setting, it should be playing a little faster. I'll jump to Mega Drive here and scroll down to Sonic the Hedgehog. And I want you to listen out to the music in this game when we're playing it. So here's Sonic the Hedgehog. There he is. So if I start playing this game, listen to the music as we play here. Now this is the Sonic most of you I would assume are used to hearing, and it sounds fine, it sounds great. But now if I go back to the system settings and set the console region to Europe, we should see a difference when I play this game again. So let's give this a shot. Now you should be hearing it coming across a tiny bit slower, and the game certainly feels a little sluggish, but this is the game that we had in the PAL region. And that's just a little interesting thing that you can do, and I think it's cool. This is the way I used to play these games, so that's how I'm used to hearing them. So that's really sweet right there. Okay, so that was quite a difference, right? But then again, that's what we had in the PAL region, so that's what I'm used to. Now I'm going to show you some of the audio-visual settings you get. You have aspect ratio settings here. You can stretch it to fit the screen or zoom in. I kind of like it as it should be. And then you get an image filter, and you get a little example here with a little mascot character. You get the various filters which can be applied to the image. It just smooths out the edges and makes it look a bit nicer. I don't use them, but some people do. Here are the scan lines you can add to the image, and then you can also apply the scan lines to the main menu, and that's kind of funny. That's kind of interesting. I'm not a big fan of these digital scan lines. If I want to play it on a CRTV, I'll use my original console. Overscan settings there, force original resolution, screen refresh rate, and screen size, which is useful if you have a very big screen like I do. And then you have some sound options right here. The sound enhancement, bass boost, treble boost, sound effects, and volume. So now I'd like to show you what this image filter looks like in-game. And for this I'm going to use a Famicom game. I actually have no way to play Famicom games outside of this system because I only have PAL consoles. So this is one thing that's really great for this system. You have access to all of the Japanese systems, particularly PC Engine, which is a big motivation for myself to get this system. So here we go, here's Argos. This is a cool Famicom shooter. I'll get into some gameplay footage right here. And yeah, this is a game that wants you to push down that fire button a lot. So shooting away at some of these ships, and you can see what the game looks like. And now I'll bring up that home menu button whilst I pause it, and bring up Super Eagle. I choose that one because it's the most notable, and yeah, you can see how different it makes the game look whilst you're playing it. And it's not for everyone. I might choose this for some of the Game Boy games, which do look a bit kind of pixelated on the big screen. So I'll quickly go over some of these in-game menu options. You have your save state slot, which you actually have 100 of these, which is really cool. Your save state save and load, take screenshot if you wish. Your filter, which I've already shown you. You can add scan lines during the game, and you have volume and reset. You have your controller settings for button mapping and hotkeys. Normally down and start would act as the home button, and you have Turbo 5 if you want it. You have your game settings for patches. You can have English patches for the Japanese games and low latency audio. You also have the option to add cheats if you would like. I want to talk about the Game Boy emulation. I've heard people say that the Game Boy games come out in the black and white and you don't have a lot of options there. Well, that must have been patched out. Now if you look at the hardware type, you can choose Game Boy to have it appear as it would look from the original Game Boy Color to play it in color, or Super Game Boy for the Super Game Boy Enhanced version. It automatically chooses the best, I believe. But that's really awesome. So you get your Super Game Boy Enhanced games, you get your full color from your Game Boy Color, and that's really neat. Now Metroid 2 is not a Game Boy Color game, but it does have a Game Boy Color palette in it if you did play it with a Game Boy Color. So there you go, Metroid 2 Return of Samus in full color. Now this is awesome. On games like Pokemon Red, in the game settings you can choose to display the Super Game Boy borders on or off. That's really cool. So with all the settings out of the way, I'd like to show you how quick and easy it is to get the ROMs off your cartridges and onto the micro SD card of the system, so you can play them whenever you want without the need of the cartridges. It's so easy and convenient, and it means you can capture the footage at 720, which is awesome. So I have a cartridge here, James Pond free for the Sega Mega Drive. And I haven't tried this. I'm going to put it in right now. So let's see if this works. It's loading the cartridge there. And it recognized it as James Pond free. Would you like to install this on the hard drive? And yep, and it's that easy. It's that quick and simple. And the game is on the system. I had a couple of cartridges that took many attempts Probably because they were dirty. I had to put them in and out of the system a lot to get working. But there you go, that was really quick and easy. So here we are, James Pond 3, and we can play this whenever. And here we are, it's just that easy. The game is on the system, I can take the cartridge out, which I will. I can play all of my games on this system, and that's just great. So, the Cyber Gadget Retro Freak, really, really loving it. It's going to be really useful for me going forward. Really sweet system. And there's lots of cool stuff there. For example, the Sonic and Knuckles cartridge works with any of the pass-through cartridges like Sonic 2 and Sonic 3 you might put into it to get variant levels there, which is really awesome. So there you go, the Cyber Gadget Retro Freak. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.